My biggest experiment recently has been going viral on TikTok. What goes viral on TikTok? What doesn't go viral? And I'm wrong all the time, but then also I learn what's right and I'm able to repeat it from there. I used to rack my brain trying to figure out why were millionaires millionaires? How did they think? How did they analyze situations? How did they problem solve in order to create the success, the wealth that they have? And it wasn't until I made my first million where all of this actually clicked. I used to be a social worker making $2,500 a month. I was in 6 figures of student loan debt. I was broke as a joke. And it wasn't until I adopted these mindsets that I created my first 6 and then I created my first 7 figures. And now I have $1 million business annually that makes millions of dollars every single year because of what I'm about to share with you. These are 10 powerful lessons that I wish someone told me in order to create more wealth, more success, more freedom. The first one is you have to be asset minded, not consumption minded. When I was a social worker, I was just thinking, what promotion can someone give me? What do I need to do? Do I need to get another degree? What do I need to consume in order to make more money versus what do I need to create and what do I need to own? You create a business, you own your intellectual property, you own your content, you own your frameworks, and then you can sell those frameworks, you can license those out, you can go train companies with those frameworks. You need to be thinking about assets and things that you own and not just what do you need to consume to output something else. Number 2, you need to be focused on skills versus goals. And so the goal would be, okay, I want to make $1 million. Okay, I want to have a 6-figure business. Versus what are the skills that I actually need to master? I need to master content creation. I need to master sales calls. I need to master delivering on my consulting agreement. I need to master public speaking. You need to think about what skills do you need to own, going back to ownership earlier, that will actually help you achieve the goal. You don't just want to set this goal and it's airball, like you just kind of shoot for the stars without actually having a plan, and those skills will help you create the plan. Number 3, you need to be easily adaptable. I can't tell you how many people I know are so stuck in their ways. They say, oh, I'm just an anxious person, or I'm just shy in front of the camera, or I'm just blank, I'm just blank. You actually need to be way more adaptable. Everything about you can change. So for me, I had this story forever that I was bad with money, I was bad with debt, I would never be able to be in a solid, healthy financial position. And it wasn't until I decided to be adaptable. I'm like, okay, well, what would it look like to manage my money just this week? What would it look like to put just $500 into savings, $100 into savings, even though I wanted $50,000 in savings? Where can I be adaptable with those things that I think are fixed? Number 4, do not take things personally. One of my past clients used to say, you're not special. We think that it's just us, just our algorithm won't push out our content, just us, we're not good at consulting and leading other people. We think it's all us, when you're not special. There are other people that struggle with this as well, and then going back to skills, they were just able to figure out which skill are they missing, what skill do they need to hone in on in order to change? What skill do they need to hone in on in order to change? So if you get a refund request, if no one likes your content, if people think what you're doing is weird, don't take any of it personally. Instead, focus on what can you learn, what skill is here that you can learn and master. The next lesson is so important. You have to be willing to be wrong. So many people, we want to be right. Our brains want to be right. That's how we create like sense of safety and self-assuredness within ourselves, is always being right. But millionaires are wrong all the time. They're willing to fail, experiment, and gain insight from their mistakes. If you just stay holed up without taking any risks because you want to be right all the time, you're not going to learn fast enough in order to make $1 million consistently. So I'm constantly putting out experiments. I'm constantly testing new frameworks. I'm putting out different styles of content. My biggest experiment recently has been going viral on TikTok. What goes viral on TikTok? What doesn't go viral? And I'm wrong all the time, but then also I learn what's right and I'm able to repeat it from there. So be willing to be wrong with almost everything. The next thing is they're willing to take risk. So similar to being wrong, you have to be able to take risk. I remember when I first started off with my business, I was like, am I really about to put myself on the internet? Am I really about to post in Facebook groups, post on Instagram, start a podcast? And I said, I have to take a risk. I don't want to be in the same position where I was a year ago, 6 months ago. I want a different reality, so that takes me doing something different. And realizing that risks actually aren't that riskier. It's not like I'm jumping off of a cliff every single month. I'm literally just doing different experiments, trying different things, maybe being a little bit more visible than what I'm comfortable with, but nothing is ever life-threatening, even if your brain thinks it is. The next thing I learned the hard way, which is using what you have, especially if you want an online business, especially if you want to have your own content creation, you want to have your own brand. You are going to see so much fancy equipment, so many fancy sets. Please, for the love of God, use what you have. I made my first $10,000 a month with 300 followers on Instagram, with the old crusty phone that I had from back then, literally showing up with my bonnet and my robe, just giving value on social media. That's literally how I started out. I didn't have a fancy background, I didn't have fancy equipment, and that is the thing that catapulted me to my success. But then as I started making more money, I thought I needed all this more fancy equipment and this fancy setup, when still to this day, the best thing for me to create content on is still my phone, is still me doing it to the camera myself, by myself, without a fancy crew. So don't get me wrong, every now and then I might show out, but it's so important to use what you have and not get into perfection mode or not get into comparison mode. There are so many things that you can do right now without having to get more certifications, without having to get more degrees. Just get started right away. The next skill is realizing that you actually need to be a teacher. If you want to be a millionaire, if you want to have your own business, if you want to have a personal brand, if you want to just lead a team, if you want any sort of high income, also high responsibility role, you will have to be a teacher. So getting good now at distilling your ideas, communicating effectively, giving out frameworks for your team to follow, for your followers to follow, for your community that you're building to go along with you, you will have to be a good teacher. And the best way to often teach is just to storytell, is to share from your experience, share what worked from you, and then lead people along the way. And then the last tip, that's the most important. It's the most important. You have to stop complaining. Complaining lowers your vibration. You don't get any ideas when you complain. You don't try anything new. You don't take any risks. You don't do any of the things that are already on this list when you complain. And realizing that you have control over your situation. I remember when I was stuck in my 9-to-5 job and I would complain about it to my coworkers. I would complain about it to my then fiance, now husband. I was so stuck in this complaining mode, and it would frustrate me and it would just keep me stuck in the same cycle until one of my coworkers was like, if you want to start your business so bad and if you don't want to be here, just start it. And I was like, okay. And then I realized instead of complaining, I took action. Instead of complaining, I took more risk. Instead of complaining, I was willing to be wrong. I was willing to do everything else on this list once I stopped complaining over my situation. Use all the strategies that I talked about today to start your journey to creating your business and having more freedom. I'll see you in the next video.